Today we have Scott again from our previous video about being a digital tango nomad. So can you maybe summarize in a few words what that's all about, what we discussed about, just for people who haven't seen the first video. By the way, I'll post a link because I definitely recommend you to listen to the first interview. But yeah, if you can, please go ahead.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Scott. I'm a digital nomad, which means I uh, don't live anywhere anymore. I worked for a tech company out of Boston, which allowed me to do my work remotely. And I've been traveling since July of 21. I've been to about 25 countries and 65 cities in this time frame. I spend about 6 months out of the year in Buenos Aires, and I pop around the world, checking out different tango scenes, going to different marathons or festivals, but then also just enjoying all these different places that I go to. And yeah,
So be sure to check out this video because I thought it was a really interesting story, and you'll want to hear all the details of how this actually, because it's the first time I've heard something like this in tango. I'm sure I will I was familiar with the term digital nomad and the type of lifestyle, but I mean not personally familiar, but I heard about it. But I've never seen anyone actually putting that in practice in combination with tango. And I also saw a different thing about your profile that was quite interesting. But your Facebook profile, that I saw that you are now only dancing in heels. So you dance both roles. That's also something we discussed during the in the first video. Um, but it's not only dancing both roles, but you also dance both of them on heels. And I have seen some queer tango guys, specifically from queer tango, who like following probably only, and they use heels. But I've never really heard anyone also being an active leader, apart from women, of course, but being an active leader. Well, even women, I see a lot of women who lead. I don't see them lead in heels. So it's just an interesting. It's just caught my attention. So that's what I wanted to do another video about with Scott. So can you please tell us your motivations for this and what's it all about? What it's all about?
for sure. So for me, I've been following almost my entire tango career, so since 2007. Um,
Why?
and it started because my teacher at the time, my in Arizona, and my teacher kind of was a very big proponent of learning both roles,
Okay.
and so I just kept it up, and I've loved it. I love being on the other side and experiencing what leaders have to share, their musicality, their movement, everything. And as a leader, becoming a follower, it's great also to just like shut off that leader brain, right? Where you're so focused on so many things, right? You're focused on your follower and yourself, of course, but then you have the music to try and interpret, to the ronda to make sure that you're protecting your partner, but protecting everybody else on the floor as well, right? So for me to have, a few tandas here and there, to just let that go and just focus on the art form, for me is really great. Um, so I had followed for years in flats and loved it. And so finally, once I started my tango travel, or my tango travels as a nomad, I came down to Buenos Aires for the first time during this set of travels in January of 21. And I'm a guy. My foot is bigger. I'm a size 42, 43. And in the U.S., I was never able to find a company that could make a shoe in my size without it being a custom order, right? The most I was able to find was a 41. And so when I arrived, I finally said, well, shoot, I'm in Buenos Aires where there's a lot of shoemakers. And let me just ask my friend who is a shoemaker. And so I went to my friend Katrin, who does Katrinski shoes, and I came to her and said, "Hey, can you do this?" And she said, "Sure, let's do it." So a month or so later, the shoes came, and I loved them. It was definitely weird at first. You know, I'm getting used to the stability and the movement.
What was it
And
your first time
uh,
wearing high heels in life in general?
I wore them one other time as a practice for maybe like a half hour. So yeah, it
Okay.
was my first time really wearing heels. Um, and in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I would be so happy if I don't break an ankle to start, right? Um, and I could get through that, and that was fine. And then I was like, okay, well, following might be okay. I've got that background; it's fine. And I did it with a friend, and it was, surprisingly. And for me, it felt like going from, as a follower, going from flats to heels. It felt like going from, whatever the shittiest car that you can think of is, to a Ferrari. Like I finally felt like I could move the way that it
Hmm.
should be, right? That I could pivot easier, that I could do all the adornos, that I could hit different types of music, I just felt free, and in general, putting the heels on also gave me this sense of power. Like I felt sexy, like it felt really empowering,
Okay.
um but then when I thought of being a leader, I in my head I was like, no, there's it's not going to be possible, because every follower, every woman that I have talked to that leads in heels says it's the hardest thing to do. So again, I asked some of my follower friends if I could follow them, and they said yes, and they said that it felt like you were just a normal leader. Um, so I think for me, when I think of followers who say this, I think that it's the combination of the two things, right? Yes, leading in heels is different from leading in flats and dancing in heels as a follower. So yes, it's different. But then secondly, you're learning to do a whole nother role, right? So for me, when I think of this art form, I think of it as you're speaking the same language, just with different accents, right? Um, so learning this new accent is already difficult, right? So putting the two together at the same time, it's a lot for people, I think. Um, so I think for me, being that it was just the shoe, right? Because I had the understanding of movement for both roles already. So putting on the shoe just meant it's changing my body mechanics a little bit, right? But at the same time, I dance with everyone, short, tall, skinny, larger, male, female. So for me, I was always trying to adapt anyways. So putting the shoes on for me, it was just putting a different pair of shoes on, like putting some boots on, or putting a sandal on. So I was very fortunate that it just worked.
Sorry, I
Um,
guess I'm a little confused. So you also mean that the leading did not cause any particular problems? It was
Correct.
natural as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. It was natural as well.
And sorry, why do you think the women struggle with that so much? Those who have followed only and then start to lead, or
I think because they have only, and I think this is true for anybody who is learning the other role, that if you are already solidified so much in your role as that dancer, as the follower, as the leader, then it's already hard enough to learn the other side, right? To learn, you know. So I think when women say that it's hard to lead in heels, I think it is the combination of, yes, the shoe does require different body mechanics, right? But I think it's that the hard thing is the leading, right? Um, so it's that technique of the leading itself, that being conscious of your partner, of the space, like all the things that we as leaders have to focus on a lot. I think that is the new piece. And that is why it's hard. And the movements themselves, yes, they are different, and yes, your posture and your energy is different from when you're in flats. But I mean, at the end of the day, it shouldn't be that different. At least I think.
Yes, and um, so maybe I also didn't completely understand why you are leading as well on heels, because you started doing it because you wanted to be a more natural follower, I guess. I mean, that's just my
Yes.
interpretation, but so why also the leading part? I mean, I can kind of guess where we are going with this, but still, like for the audience, can you explain the motivation for that?
Yeah. And so the main thing for me was I just don't want to pick, right? I don't want to either like take my night and split it in half, and half the night is leading and half the night is following because of the shoes, right? I also don't want to get into the boxing myself in of not being able to pick the songs I want to do when I with the person I want to, right? So like if a Tanda comes on and I'm like, oh, I want to dance as a follower with this person. So I go up to them and be like, hey, can we dance? But I need to change my
Oh,
shoes.
yeah,
So
yeah,
can you
yeah,
wait a
yeah,
minute?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
or the other way around, right? Like
yeah,
I want
yeah,
to lead and I'm like, okay, now I got to change into my flats. Like, no, that doesn't work. So for me, and again, thanks to my friends giving me the feedback that I do feel like a natural leader in heels. I said, well, screw it. Why not
yeah,
just stay in the heels? And do I feel the same as I do in flats? No, but I'm trying to get there, and I can't get there without dancing more as a leader in heels, right? So it's time, it's experience. Um, so I mean that's the main thing. That I don't want to pick. I want to dance when and with who whenever I want, right? Um, yeah,
yes, and I guess it also makes it more clear that you can also follow if you're, for example, if you're going somewhere where people don't
exactly.
know you.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does, and
I'm, that's not my own answer. That's what you told me before the interview, but I just want to highlight
exactly.
that. Yeah,
Exactly. No, of course. Yeah, I mean that is the hope, right? That if somebody looks down, then they'll see my heels, and it does work. But it's also funny. I've been in a situation a number of times where with a man or a woman in whichever role, and they didn't realize I was in heels until we started dancing, and they're
oh,
like in the first song, you're like, oh crap, you're in a high heel. I'm like, yeah, hello.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
that's
so
funny.
that's
Yeah,
always funny when that happens. But yeah. So the hope is that because it's not always seen that a person dances the other role, right? Women have this issue, and it's come up a number of times that if you are in a flat shoe, then you're not here to be a follower, or you're not dancing right now.
yeah, that's
And there's been this recently. There's been this whole discussion that's just not true. Like it shouldn't matter the shoe. We are just here to dance.
yeah,
But then you talk to others, and they do say that it is important to them. So for me, I'm kind of hoping that it will work in my favor. Of if I wear heels, leaders will look at me and they will want to dance with me, and so that's the hope at least. Um, and yeah, it works sometimes.
okay. Yeah, so you think that's it works to some extent.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Um, yeah,
And of course, it's a much less of a nuisance because you don't need to switch these shoes all the time. I mean,
yeah,
it's like a like it's a kind of term for that where you have like a where anything is like an added benefit, right?
yes,
Like
exactly.
you don't lose anything by by doing this. You might actually gain more than you think, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Other than that, as a guy, I'm kind of afraid of how high heels, like how uncomfortable they seem. So, but it seems like it didn't take you that much of a um struggle to get used to it.
I mean, it takes time to get used to it. Yes, I mean, they're not the most comfortable shoes in the world, right? But so it does take time. It does take your feet to get used to them. Um, especially if for people who have never worn them in their life, right? It's this weird thing, and you have to relearn how to walk, right? Like we always are in tango, but in general walking down the hallway, right? You have to relearn how to do that. Um, and of course, when you're wearing the heels, you want to make it sexy, right? You got to get that swagger down. um, so, but yeah, it takes time to be comfortable with them.
Yes, yes. So you said something about discovering high heels and following becoming like riding in a Ferrari, driving a Ferrari.
Yep.
But I guess that says something about the importance of high heels in following. Right? But then you also say
Yes.
like I'm trying to turn it around. You also say that leading in high heels is ultimately just a matter of getting used to, and that it will ultimately for you be as good as dancing on flat shoes.
Yeah.
Um,
I think for me, it's just different, right? I think with going as a follower, going from flats to heels, and I think if you were to ask any other follower, they would probably say the same, that it's not that if you're a good follower, you will still be able to dance in not so convenient shoes, right? Like in your sneakers or in your boots or whatever, like you could still dance in them. Are they the best shoe to dance in? No, because the heel, I mean, you're wearing one. It's something that it's a lighter shoe, right? There's more flexibility in it. There's more, potential to use the floor more or in a different way. And because it's lighter, it's thinner, you can do more of those smaller movements, the adornos, the those little cheeky things. Um, so I think that is one of the biggest differences that I liked the most. That like I felt like I went from having those leg weights, on your ankles, to not having them, right? Like I felt finally released, that I could finally move. And then as a leader in flats versus heels, in the flats, I do feel more grounded. I feel more like mountainous, right? Like you can poke me and I'm not going to go anywhere, right? But when I'm in the heel, and obviously I feel lighter, and my movements I feel are more maybe under me, more precise. Um,
mhm.
so yeah, there is this different dynamic, which is a lot of fun to explore.
Yeah, but I guess you're positive about just being able to lead as well as possible in the end with these high heels.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that it has worked as well as it has, and that I do, according to my friends, that I do feel just like a normal leader. Is it different? Yes. Many of my friends still like me more in my flats. Yes, but
Okay.
like I said, it takes time.
Yeah.
It's only been what, 2 years now, versus my entire tango life, was 16 years as a leader in flats. So it's like it's a
Yeah.
very different. So it's been an interesting and really fun exploration.
Yeah. And now coming back to this digital nomad thing. So you're traveling around and going to all these unknown places, and do you always just feel comfortable wearing what you wear? not knowing how people may respond. I mean, of course, like ideally, we shouldn't really care about all of that, but there might be still some practical considerations, right? Depending on where you're going. Is there anything you can say about that?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, so far I've traveled mostly through Europe since I've been in my heels, and I've not felt any hostility towards me in any way. So I've been very lucky from that perspective. And as far as my thought on going into Milonga, I am lucky that I'm at this point in my life where I don't care what people think about me, right? Because I'm comfortable with myself. I already stand out a lot. I have blue hair. I don't know if you guys can see it on screen here, and I have a lot of rings and now the heels, so I stand out in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. So I've had to become very relaxed and comfortable with it, because at the end of the day, it's about me, not about you, right? I am the one traveling, and I need to make sure that I am happy doing the things I want to do. And if you don't like it, well, I'm only here for a short time. I'm only passing through. And if I don't like your energy, then I just won't come back, you know? Um, and that there have been a few scenes that I've not felt the most welcome. And I have that luxury that I just don't have to come back.
Yeah.
I passed through and that's it.
Yeah.
Um, so it has, in this sense, it again has been very liberating. I don't have the standard social qualms of having to fit in, of having to be in the right mix or whatever it might be, or to try and please people, or to be worried about the politics or whatever. Like I don't care anymore. I just kind of flit in, flit out. And if you jive with me, great. Let's have fun. Let's go for a coffee or something. But if not, then that's okay. It's totally, you want to stay on the other side of the room, you don't want to talk to me, totally cool.
Yes. Yes. Well, you seem divinely confident about yourself, and that's something a lot of people can learn from. So,
Mm,
congratulations on that. So you said you try to stay
thank you.
6 months in Buenos Aires every year. Um, so has
Mm.
your experience been as positive with this in Buenos Aires as in Europe?
Yeah, definitely. I I do wear my heels everywhere down here, except for milongas that I won't mention, but for the viewers that have been down here, you could probably guess. I don't go to those, not because I have an issue with the milonga itself or whatever. It's their party, and I know what they want, so I don't bother. So, and there's so many milongas here that I go to them instead, and my experience has been very positive. I do get a lot of of um, positive reinforcement from both the people I dance with and the onlookers, who are both living here permanently. They are porteños, or expats who live here, or the tourists that come down. So I've not had any negative experiences in the milongas because of the heels by any means.
So, and
Yeah.
do you have the impression, maybe as a last question, do you have the impression that you may have like inspired anyone to also do whatever they want, essentially in tango, in a good
Yeah,
sense?
I
Because
really
you
hope
because you're
so. I
talking about the
mean,
feedback, right? So that's why I wondered.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. No, I mean that from a cultural perspective, I am hoping that this is part of it. It's um one the it inspires people to do both roles in general. I think for me, tango itself is just an art form. So in other art forms, why would you only learn half of it? Why go learn the whole thing?
Yeah.
Um, and yes, I know it's hard, and it's not, the first thing that you might immediately want to do, but to have some basic understanding and empathy for the other side. It allows you to have that better understanding and how to move and how to be more comfortable, right? So just at that base layer, being more empathetic and being more open. Um, and then in my travels so far, I've only met maybe two other men who wear heels full time.
Hmm.
Uh, no, maybe only one. And the other one dances part time. But then I have met a few um, who dance only in heels, but as a follower role, like Fabian from Germany, who's great. Um, I know he only dances in heels, but as a follower. So far on my travels, I am this island of one, um, essentially. So it's been really interesting to see that as well, and you know to to try and get tango to open up more. I think at least what I've seen is, and down here in Buenos Aires too, that things have really started to be more open and accepting over maybe the last 10 years or so.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that means that things can allow us to be more creative and more open. Why does it have to be that only the man can dance with the woman? It's not. Why does it have to be that you have to dress this certain way? Oh, it's not. You don't have to. Um, there are options. There's more potential out there. Um, so yeah, I hope I'm making some impact, for people to start questioning their tango, their lives in some way, to be more open, to be more to respect people more as well.
Yes. Yes, I also find this quite inspiring, not only as an inspiring male follower, but also because I have in the opposite direction, I have something strange going on. Like I'm not wearing heels, but I'm actually dancing without shoes.
Mhm.
Because I've always had a lot of problems with shoes in life. And I used to have some old tango shoes that fit me well, but then I left them in a train. So now I had to make a
Oh
switch.
no.
Yeah, yes, shit happens, but it's even worse if you don't have an alternative. So I know women who have like I don't know, 100 shoes, but I had only like two pair, and one of those were my beginner shoes. I didn't even like them that much. So they were both from Buenos Aires, but I threw away the old ones at some point, and then I lost the good ones. And now I'm
Oh
like
no.
yeah, I'm trying to I danced in socks for a while, and now I have like a special kind of sock thing with leather under it, like suede under it. So I'm experimenting
Mhm.
with things, and for me it feels very liberating. But I also get some very strange looks and some strange comments sometimes. I don't really bother, but it's just funny if you're doing something that's out of the norm. Um, it's sometimes perceived as weird, but it's also eccentric in an interesting way. Like people, I think some people also just like the originality of someone just doing their thing. And yeah, I got
Of
inspired in
course.
turn by someone who I saw dancing on bare feet a lot, and then at some point with these things that I'm mentioning that you can put under your toes, and I asked her what
Hmm.
it was. So then she inspired me. She's also a double roll dancer. So I guess in this way we all kind of inspire each other and then open the world for new perspectives. And I like it very much that you. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in the first video, but like some dancers originally like the dual role dancers, they're like queer dancers, and they really like they meet each other in their own circles and they go to their own festivals. But from you I get the impression that you just go anywhere you want and you mix with everyone. And then I mean that's great, because then this just becomes like the whole mentality opens up more instead of people like
Exactly.
segregating themselves in some kind of corner. It becomes the mainstream. And yeah, I'm sure there will be some type of backlash against that, but it's much less than it was, for example, 10 years ago. So
Yes.
it's making progress. So yeah, thank you for this video, and yes, I hope to speak to you again if I see something more interesting happening from your side. I'm sure there will be
Yeah.
something, and
Yeah.
yeah. thanks. Is there anything you want to add, or that I forgot
No,
to mention, or
no, thank you for the time. Thanks for having me on your channel, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you and with everyone watching.
yes, yes. So I really hope people enjoyed this. I think they did, because yes, it's just very educational and very inspiring. Thank you.
My pleasure.